All right, we're back with the Penn State breakdown, courtesy of Adam Breneman, former Penn State tight end, UMass All-American. Adam, spirits are not exactly high in the Penn State fan base after what Michigan did to the Nittany Lions in Ann Arbor, 42-7. There's still 3 games left to play, including a big one this week against Wisconsin. They have a shot to get to 9-3. The dreams of a double-digit regular season have died. And this is not going to be an easy game, but a lot of the fans are a little bit perplexed about this offense. 7 points, they almost got shut out. Took a 4th down completion late to avoid a shutout, which Jim Harbaugh challenged, which I thought was great. So KJ Hamler is clearly, I think, their most dangerous player. 1 catch for 20 yards. He didn't look like a happy camper after the game. When you look at the offense, is it just easy to say we got to get this guy the ball more involved, or is there some stuff that goes with that?
Yeah, I think we hear Coach Franklin and Ricky Ronnie talk all the time about in their offense they don't really try to get guys a certain amount of touches a game. They kind of take what the defense gives them. I think and there is some truth to that in every offense.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see how the defense is going to play, the coverage they're playing, and kind of adjust off of that. But at some point, you have to base your offense around your personnel. I mean, you have KJ Hamler, who's probably one of the most talented players on the field.
Yeah.
I think at some point, you got to find a way to get him. I mean, he should be touching the ball 15 times a game. Mm-hmm. Whether it's running the ball, jet sweeps, getting him some screen passes. Returner. I mean, he's got to be touching the ball double-digit times. I mean, to have 1 or 2 catches a game and a couple targets isn't going to cut it. They're not going to win in the Big Ten when KJ Hamler, they're one of their best receivers. Their best receiver, one of their best players probably, isn't putting up big numbers.
Yeah. So early in the season against App State when they needed him, and even against Pitt, he had success going across the middle. He's so elusive. Do you think that defenses are playing him differently? But it just seems like that component of the game is kind of missing. And is there a play you think that he is most dangerous and it's easy to get him the ball in a specific kind of play?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's the way the defense is playing KJ that's kind of been the problem. I just think the offense has just been stalling from top to bottom, from the offensive line not playing well. They played decent the first few weeks, and kind of seeing them fall apart a little bit. We saw Trace miss some throws, and I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's the defense. And really, I mean, KJ Hamler can get open against anyone. KJ Hamler get open against zone, against man-to-man. So I don't know if that's really the reason that he's not getting the ball. I think you can use him a variety of different ways. I just think whether getting the ball 15 times a game, 10 times a game, or 15 targets at least.
Right.
Some of those can be screen passes. Some of those can be swing passes, bubble passes. Just getting in the ball in space and letting him make people miss. I mean, that's what he's best at. And then you got to take a few shots down the field. But in order to be able to take shots down the field, you got to run the ball well, and you got to have protection. And that's 2 things they haven't had the last few weeks.
Yeah, and that brings us to our next kind of talking point here on the Penn State breakdown. Adam, Miles Sanders had some big games earlier this year. I think he ran for 200 yards against Illinois. Even in the Michigan State loss, he had 162 yards, a couple of long runs. Couldn't do anything against Michigan. I think it was 14 yards on 7 carries. They kind of got away from it. And he didn't really have a great game against Iowa. He's had some fumbling issues. Not all of it's his fault. Yeah. But this is a talented player. Has Penn State gotten away from maybe trying to stay balanced on offense, or is it just a question of maybe some adjustments that they're seeing? Yeah,
Miles has, I think, played pretty well all season. Taking on the lead running back role pretty well with not many hiccups. From Saquon to him, and those are big shoes to fill, obviously. And we've seen him make. I mean, he's had some great runs. That run against Michigan State is one that really sticks out in my mind. But I'll say this: as far as last game, it's hard to run the ball when you're losing by 21 points off the bat, and in order for these different players like KJ and Miles to be effective, they need to complement each other. You got to have good quarterback play, and it's hard to have a good running game when you can't throw the ball at all, and it's hard to have a good passing game when you can't run the ball. And when you can't do either, nothing works. Right. So I think they got a lot of adjustments to make on offense. I think everything can improve from play calling, and I think Franklin and Ricky Ron would be the first ones to tell you they got to call the game better. And just have better play top to bottom. And I think once that happens, we'll see Miles, become more electric as he was in the beginning of the season.
What do you think it says, or does this surprise you that here we are with 3 regular season games left, and really the guys that they're really trusting in the passing game are Pat Freiermuth, Hamler when they can get him the ball, and now Jahan Dotson. We're not talking about some other players. And what do you think that means this far into the season, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think, Pat Freiermuth is one of the maybe surprises of the season, one of the positive notes of the offense the last few weeks. I mean, been playing at a really high level for an older freshman, as we had talked about before. But, I think anytime you're relying on a tight end to be your number one receiver isn't always good. And I'm a tight end that loves being the number one receiver.
I know it hurts you to say that. But
it does, but you really don't want to be relying on a big tight end to be your number one receiver. It should be more of, we're going to pound the ball, we're going to throw it deep, and then we're going to hit the tight end on a few routes here and there. So, I think, like I said, there's a lot of different things that need to be fixed in the offense. Wide receiver play hasn't been great all season. A lot of drops. We saw even more drops on Saturday. I mean, they got to fix that problem because they're leaving big plays on the field.
Yeah. One more for you. We're talking about Miles Sanders not getting established the last couple of games. Now, they're going to play Wisconsin on Saturday, and whether Wisconsin wins or loses, I can promise you they're going to try and establish Jonathan Taylor, 1,360 yards, the Big Ten's leading rusher, who was a great player last year for Wisconsin. So when you look at the Penn State defense and the fact that they played a lot of snaps in the last month of the season, and the fact that he's probably going to carry the ball 30 times, and what's the best case scenario, assuming he does get over 100 yards? Is there a scenario where Penn State's defense can actually play well, they can still win the game, and then and Wisconsin's running game still probably goes for about 175 yards? Yeah,
as they do almost every game, it seems like. Jonathan Taylor is one of the best backs in the country, obviously, and I think just playing the amount of snaps they've played the last few weeks, it was something that we had talked about last week, and they played a ton of snaps again last week, and I forget what the snap count was, but it was not even for Penn State and Michigan. So that's always a concern, especially a team that doesn't have a ton of depth at linebacker and defensive line. And those are two areas where you want to have depth, and Penn State doesn't really have it. So it's concerning. I think Wisconsin's going to be able to run the ball as they do on everybody, and I think Penn State's going to have to find a way to stop the passing game, and that is part of what Wisconsin does well, is they run the ball, and take those play-action shots and get those big plays. And that's kind of the complementary offense that you want, that Penn State hasn't been able to get. So I think there's a scenario where Wisconsin dominates the running game, Penn State can still win, but it's going to take not giving up big plays in the passing game and scoring points on offense.
Yeah. All right, one more. This is a little unscripted. So they're sitting 6-3. I think they have a pretty good chance to get to 9-3. This is probably going to be the toughest test they have left in the regular season. Just looking at their season overall, though, 6-3. They were 4-0 at one point, so that means just 2 wins in the last 5 games. Some struggles against Appalachian State. Even they were, third quarter they're down against Illinois. Indiana had the ball at the end with a chance to win. Iowa, if Nate Stanley didn't just completely fall apart there inside the 5. So I guess what I'm saying is, as somebody who's followed the Penn State program, what would you say to the fan base as far as where they are and maybe what you would like to see in the final 3 games?
Yeah, I think it's I'm not shocking anyone by saying it's been a somewhat disappointing season with some of the, you look back to, should have beaten Ohio State. And, part of what I think about is how different the season might be if they would have beaten Ohio State.
Get a stop against Michigan State late.
Exactly. Got a stop there. And how different our tone would be right now talking about the season. But I don't think anyone at the beginning of this season, at least I didn't, really thought this was going to be a college football playoff team. I mean, you talk about the talent they lost on offense, from Barkley to Gesicki to Sean Hamilton. It's a ton of production that they lost on the offensive side of the ball. And then on defense, too, lost a lot of veterans from Jason Kabinda to the Cothran brothers to, the Grant Haley and all those guys that were big-time players on defense for him, too. Troy Apke, Marcus Allen. They were replacing a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. So, we knew it was going to be tough to replace all those guys, not to make excuses for the lack of execution they've had, because at some point, they're losing by, 40-some points to Michigan isn't going to be acceptable ever at Penn State. So, I think if they can win out the rest of the season, be 9-3, which I think they will, I said that a few weeks ago too, and I was wrong. So hopefully I'm right this time about winning out. But I think if they can end up 9-3, we'll have a season that we can be somewhat proud of. Penn State fans can be proud of, but still will be a little disappointment with what it could have been.
All right, so should I write in 9-3?
I don't know.
With a check mark, Adam Breneman?
Yeah.
Am I going to go?
I don't know. Maybe.
That, or are we not going to do that?
Well, you guys did it last few weeks ago to me and replayed my old clip. So
we got to put you on the spot. We got to take advantage of all this knowledge.
I'll be right eventually. I'm telling you.
If you make enough big picks, throw them against the wall. One of them's going to stick. All right. Hopefully, we will be back next week with some good news after Penn State, Wisconsin. That's it for this edition of the Penn State Breakdown with Adam Breneman.